It was the 3rd year of my secret relationship with Garrett, my alpha brother's best friend. Marcus laughed and nudged Garrett playfully. You've been with that little mate of yours for 3 years now. When are you going to introduce her to the pack? I pressed myself against the doorframe, my heart racing. Had my brother figured out our secret? Garrett just laughed it off. What mate? Just some crazy she-wolf who won't leave me alone. Marcus caught sight of me and grinned. Sage, you see this? Never pick a mate like Garrett here. Takes everything a female offers but won't even acknowledge the bond. Just then, more of Marcus's friends arrived, and they joined in the teasing. Your brother's right, but Garrett's had his heart set on someone for years. What was her name again? Oh right, Arya. She's returning to the pack soon. I'd heard that name before, Arya. But Garrett had never told me she was his true love. Chapter 1. Arya's coming back to the pack. How did I not know about this? Garrett's eyes went wide, and I could see the joy spreading across his face. She just decided recently. Didn't you give her that moonstone pendant blessed by the moon goddess last month? From their conversation, I learned so many things I'd never known. After bringing me wildflowers, he would send Arya expensive gifts. He reported his daily activities to her religiously. He gave her special presents on every anniversary. During our 3 years together, Arya had received his attention on every important occasion. For all of my important days, he was completely absent. Sage, I'm sorry, Garrett said. This is all for our future. Everyone knew he had a mate. But because of Garrett's deliberate secrecy, no one knew it was supposed to be me. Only now did I understand. Garrett had given all his open affection to Arya. I remembered all the times Marcus had complained about Garrett to me. He'd been frustrated that Garrett kept dumping pack duties on him because of his relationship. Garrett's impossible. He abandons patrol shifts just to chase after some female. Garrett ordered flowers for that she-wolf again. Their lovesick behavior is nauseating. Garrett this, Garrett that, every time Marcus vented, my heart had soared with sweetness. I'd even defended Garrett, telling Marcus to be patient because finding a true mate wasn't easy. Now I realized my understanding had been weaving a wedding dress for another she-wolf. What about that crazy female who's been chasing you? When she finds out about you and Arya, she'll probably lose her mind. Someone posed the question to Garrett. Garrett looked at me, his eyes flickering. She won't. I'll make things clear to her. The one I've loved from the beginning has always been Arya. She kept pursuing me, and I had no choice but to agree. Like the pathetic she-wolf I was, I ran. Chapter 2. Without realizing it, I found myself back at our den. Every corner of this place bore my careful touch. I'd spent months making it perfect for us. The memory of Garrett's amazement when he first saw the finished space still haunted me. Sage, you've made this place absolutely beautiful. I'm so happy we can have a home like this together. After our parents died, Marcus had raised me alone. It hadn't been easy for him. Garrett's presence had filled the gaps where my brother's attention couldn't reach. I'd fallen hopelessly in love with him. That's why when Marcus told me Garrett was drinking himself into oblivion over some heartbreak, I couldn't stop myself from going to him. When he woke up in my arms, Garrett had held me tight. Sage, he'd whispered, let's try this. I want to forget her. I didn't know who she was then. I only knew he was willing to open his heart to me. I'd ached seeing how hard he worked, so I moved in to take care of him. In the beginning, Garrett treated me like I was precious. He'd spend the full moon runs with me. He'd help me navigate pack politics when other wolves gave me trouble. In our most intimate moments, he'd say, Sage, being with you is the luckiest thing that's ever happened to me. I'd treasured those words for so long. When did things change? It was 6 months after we'd bonded. Suddenly, he started working late constantly, claiming pack duties kept him away. Even when he was home, he'd smile at his phone with pure joy. When I asked about it, he'd always say, "Pack business, Sage. Things are going really well for me." Now I understood. It wasn't his work going well. It was his love life. Tears started falling without permission. I couldn't hold back the sobs that tore from my throat. When I finally looked up, I realized Garrett had returned. He stared at my red, swollen eyes with guilt written across his face. "I'm sorry, Sage. I still can't make myself love you." I wiped my face roughly, my voice hoarse as I confronted him. "Then why did you tell Marcus I was some crazy she-wolf chasing after you? If you don't love me, why didn't you say so from the start? Why did you let me make a fool of myself, facing this humiliation?" Garrett pulled me into his arms, repeating, "I'm sorry," over and over. "I tried to love you, Sage. You might not understand. Some wolves, even when they decide to give up, still feel their heart race when they see that person again, Sage. I can't stop loving her." His raw honesty shattered what was left of my heart. Then his phone rang. The familiar ringtone made everything click into place. That sound that had pulled him away from me countless times. It was Arya calling. Sure enough, Garrett immediately released me, answering with pure excitement. "Arya, you're back. You're almost at pack territory. I'll come get you right now." Without a backward glance, Garrett rushed out. I sank onto the couch, numb as all the pieces fell together. The familiar ringtone. The sudden, emergency, trips. The absence during every important day. I couldn't lie to myself anymore. The wolf I loved had abandoned me countless times for someone else. That night, Garrett didn't come home. I quietly erased every trace of myself from our den. Then I moved back to Marcus's place. My brother seemed surprised to see me. "Sage, what made you suddenly want to move back home?" I forced a smile that felt worse than crying. "I just wanted to stay here for a while." Marcus didn't notice my emotional state. He kept talking, filling me in on pack news. He told me Garrett had thrown an elaborate welcome ceremony for Arya's return. Turns out Garrett and Arya have been together for 2 years already. No wonder he never introduced her to us. He was waiting to announce everything after the mating ceremony. Marcus showed me photo after photo on his phone. I stared at the lavish decorations and Garrett's beaming smile, my heart breaking all over again. Marcus had no idea about our history. He laughed as he said, "Our little Sage will have to call Arya sister when she meets her." Chapter 3. Is Garrett planning to hold a mating ceremony with Arya? My sharp eyes caught the formal wording on one of the photos Marcus was showing me. The elaborate script read, "Sacred bonding under the moon goddess," with their names intertwined. The clear details made me feel even more like a fool. Marcus nodded enthusiastically, completely missing my stricken expression. "Yeah, they've known each other for years. Apparently it's going to be the grandest ceremony our territory has ever seen." He swiped to another photo showing elaborate floral arrangements and ceremonial altars. "Look at this setup. Garrett must have spent months planning this." My stomach twisted as I recognized some of the flowers. White moon bells, the same ones Garrett used to bring me, claiming they were just something pretty I found. Now I knew where he'd gotten the idea. From my brother's enthusiastic stories, I heard about a completely different version of Garrett. Marcus leaned back in his chair, shaking his head in admiration. "You know, I always thought Garrett was too focused on pack duties to care about romance. But this guy is absolutely devoted." "What do you mean?" The words scraped out of my throat. "Well, you remember all those business trips he's been taking? Turns out half of them were just excuses to visit Arya in the Northern Territories. Marcus pulled up more photos on his phone, each one a knife to my heart. He's participated in every single one of her important celebrations for the past 2 years. Her birthday, her healer graduation, even her grandmother's memorial service. The room started spinning around me. All those times Garrett had apologized for missing my important days. All those times he'd claimed urgent pack business. Even that study in his den, you know, the one he never lets anyone into. I nodded numbly. I'd always wondered about that locked room. Apparently it's full of Arya's photographs. Marcus showed me when we helped him move some furniture last month. The guy's got it bad. My brother's voice faded to a distant buzz as memories crashed over me. The study door that was always locked when I visited. Garrett's phone calls that he'd taken private. The way his eyes would light up when certain messages came through. All of it suddenly made horrifying sense. Finally, Marcus's expression shifted as he noticed my silence. A shadow of concern crossed his features. That crazy she-wolf who's been chasing him is really pathetic, though. I flinched at his words, knowing he was talking about me without realizing it. She sacrificed everything for him, gave up her healer training, moved in to take care of him, organized his whole life. But he never even acknowledged her publicly. Marcus shook his head with genuine pity. She never earned his respect, let alone his love. It's actually kind of sad. My brother's tone was subtle, but I could taste the disdain Garrett must have expressed when talking about me. The casual dismissal. The irritation. I was just an inconvenience he tolerated. I rubbed my eyes roughly, stopping the tears before they could fall and give me away. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't get enough air. Marcus suddenly reached over and ruffled my hair, his voice turning gentle as he looked into the distance. Sage, love is actually very obvious when it's real. When someone truly cares about you, they show it in ways that can't be hidden or denied. He turned back to me with serious eyes. Giving up everything for a male who doesn't love you back isn't worth it. A she-wolf should never have to beg for basic respect and consideration. His words hit me like a physical blow. That simple observation shattered what was left of my composure completely. I knew exactly what I'd been doing these past 3 years. Begging. Pleading. Hoping. Making excuses for his coldness. Convincing myself that his small kindnesses meant something more. But I'd only been moving myself. He'd never felt anything at all. The realization was devastating. I tilted my head back, letting the morning air dry the tears that had escaped despite my efforts. You're right, Marcus. He's not worth it. The words felt like admitting defeat, but also like the first honest thing I'd said in years. Chapter 4. Early the next morning, Marcus shook me awake with excitement. Get up, sleepyhead. We're going to Arya's welcome celebration. I'd forgotten that today was the party. The last thing I wanted was to see Garrett and Arya together, but I couldn't refuse without explaining why. The party was being held in the Pack's grand ceremonial hall. As we approached, I could hear laughter and music spilling out into the morning air. The decorations were lavish and elegant beyond anything I'd ever seen. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting rainbow light across tables laden with delicacies. Silk banners in silver and blue, Arya's colors, draped every surface. Studying every detail, I finally understood how obvious love really was. When someone truly cared. Garrett could be thoughtful and caring when he wanted to be. He could plan elaborate surprises and remember every small preference. He could spend months organizing the perfect celebration. He just never wanted to be that way for me. Every casual flower he'd brought me, every hastily planned dinner, every forgotten anniversary, they all took on new meaning. I'd been grateful for scraps while he was planning feasts for someone else. The crowd's excited chatter drew my scattered attention back to the present. "She's here," someone called out. I watched a beautiful she-wolf enter the hall, her arm linked through Garrett's. So this was Arya. She moved with fluid grace, her silver dress catching the light with every step. Her dark hair was styled in elaborate braids woven with tiny crystals. She looked like she belonged in this elegant setting, like she was born for this kind of attention. I'd actually met Arya when I was small, though she clearly didn't remember me. Back then, I'd been a wild, troublesome pup who couldn't sit still or mind my manners. Marcus would look at me with exasperation after every social gathering. "Sage, you need to act like a proper she-wolf," he'd say with a tired sigh. "Your brother has a friend who's the perfect example, graceful, confident, and beautiful." He'd used every flowery word in his vocabulary to describe her. She never speaks out of turn or draws unwanted attention. She knows exactly how to behave in every situation. The comparison had stung even then. Marcus had even secretly taken me to see Arya once at a pack gathering. See how she carries herself. How everyone respects her. Though it was just a glimpse, she'd been breathtaking even as a teenager. No wonder Garrett could never forget her. No wonder I could never measure up. As I grew older, Marcus became busier trying to provide for us both after our parents' deaths. I gradually became Garrett's little shadow, following him everywhere and hanging on his every word. Even then, though he was kind to me, he would suddenly abandon me for mysterious reasons. "Sorry, Sage, something urgent came up. I'll make it up to you next time. You understand, right?" Now that everything connected, I finally understood. Even as a child, I'd been the one Garrett left behind for Arya. I'd always been second choice. "Marcus, who's this young she-wolf?" "Your mate." Arya's voice was melodious as honey as she approached us. She smiled warmly, but I caught something calculating in her eyes as they swept over me. That's when I noticed how similarly we were dressed. The same style of dress, the same color palette, even similar jewelry. Had Garrett been styling me to look like her? The thought made me feel sick. Garrett's expression darkened the moment he spotted me in the crowd. His jaw tightened and his hands clenched at his sides. "Sage, what are you doing here?" The hostility in his voice was barely contained. "I brought her, obviously." "Why? Aren't we welcome?" Marcus spoke lightly, oblivious to the tension crackling between Garrett and me. He was completely unaware that his friend had been secretly involved with me for 3 years. Or that I'd been labeled a crazy pursuer behind his back. I smiled with contempt, letting Garrett see exactly what I thought of him now. The mask was finally off. Garrett's eyes flashed with panic as he realized I might expose our secret. He grabbed my arm roughly and started pulling me toward the garden. "Excuse us for a moment. Sage, I don't care why you came here." His voice was sharp with anger as soon as we were alone. "But I'm warning you, don't ruin my mating ceremony with Arya." His grip on my arm was tight enough to bruise. "I told you I don't love you. I thought I made that clear." The casual cruelty in his voice was breathtaking. I took a deep breath and met his gaze with steady eyes. "Perfect, because I don't love you anymore either, Garrett." Each word was deliberate and clear. "I wish you both happiness. You deserve each other." For a moment, shock flickered across his features. Then his expression twisted into something ugly. "You don't love me anymore?" "Impossible." His laugh was harsh and mocking. "Haven't you been obsessed with me since we were pups? Following me around like a lost dog?" Garrett stared at me with pure malice, his eyes cruel and dismissive. "Stop lying, Sage. We both know you can't let me go." Chapter 5. You wrote me love letters when you were just a teenage pup. Garrett's voice was cold as he began his methodical destruction of my dignity. Remember that? Little Sage, barely 14, slipping handwritten notes under my door. My face burned with humiliation as he continued. When I was heartbroken in my 20s, you came running to comfort me. He stepped closer, his presence looming over me. You brought me soup. You sat with me for hours while I talked about her. You even offered to do my patrol shifts so I could rest. The way he said her made it clear he'd been talking about Arya even then. Every birthday, every important day, you'd scrape together your allowance to buy me gifts. His laugh was bitter and mocking. Those little trinkets you saved up for months to afford. The hand-knitted scarf. The wooden wolf carving you commissioned from the pack artisan. Each memory he threw at me felt like a physical blow. I'd treasured every one of those moments. And now you show up to my mating ceremony with Arya, and you claim you don't love me anymore. Garrett's eyes narrowed as he studied my face. Sage, do you even believe that lie? His words sent ice through my veins. I'd always thought my childhood crush was a secret, lonely performance. A one-sided devotion that I'd hidden from the world. I never imagined Garrett had been watching it all. Recording every gesture. Every sacrifice. Every moment of vulnerability. He'd known I loved him for years. Known and done nothing to discourage it. And still. Deliberately painted me as some crazy she-wolf stalker to everyone else. My stomach twisted as the full scope of his manipulation became clear. He'd enjoyed all my devotion while pursuing Arya in secret. Letting me cook for him and clean his den while he planned romantic getaways with another she-wolf. Making himself look like an innocent victim who was being pursued against his will. The calculated cruelty of it took my breath away. I stared at his handsome face growing more agitated, feeling my heart freeze inch by inch. You knew, I whispered, my voice barely audible. You knew how I felt this whole time. Of course I knew. His tone was dismissive. You weren't exactly subtle, Sage. The casual way he said it made me want to shift and tear his throat out. Sage, I never said I would love you. He crossed his arms, his stance defensive now. I only said we'd try. I never said we were truly mated. Trying. I repeated, my voice gaining strength. Is that what you call 3 years of my life? I told you from the beginning it was temporary. You chose to hope for more. The blame in his voice was staggering. If you dare ruin my mating ceremony with Arya, I won't forgive you. Garrett's eyes filled with a disgust I'd never seen before. Like I was something dirty that had crawled out from under a rock. He looked at me like I was a disease he couldn't wait to cure himself of. The crushing contrast between this hatred and the tenderness he'd shown me just days ago nearly brought me to tears. How had I been so blind? I won't ruin anything, I managed to say. I'm not even supposed to be here. Good. Keep it that way. That's when Arya approached, her timing too perfect to be coincidental. She'd probably been watching from nearby, waiting for the right moment to stake her claim. She walked gracefully to Garrett's side, her movements fluid and confident. Without hesitation, she wrapped her arm possessively around his. Garrett, what are you and Sage discussing for so long? Marcus is getting impatient. Her voice was honey-sweet, but there was steel underneath. She knew exactly what this conversation was about. Then she turned to me with subtle arrogance, her smile never wavering. You must be Marcus's sister, Sage. I'm Garrett's mate, Arya. The way she emphasized mate was deliberate. A territorial claim disguised as polite introduction. Welcome to our mating ceremony. She extended her hand to me, the gesture seemingly friendly. But her eyes held a challenge. I stared at the offered hand, my heart breaking all over again as the reality hit me. This was really happening. Garrett was really choosing her. Garrett immediately stepped closer to Arya and took her other hand, his movements protective and possessive. The contrast with how he'd just been treating me was stark. Don't bother getting acquainted. She's nobody important. The words hit me like a physical slap. Nobody important. After 3 years of sharing his bed, his meals, his life. After giving up my dreams to support his. I was nobody important. It's time, Arya said, her voice bright with false cheer. Let's go perform the mating ritual. She turned to Garrett with adoring eyes. This is the grand ceremony I've been planning for you for 6 months. 6 months. While I'd been living with him, believing we had a future. Perfect, let's go then. Arya smiled with dazzling beauty, her victory complete. She glanced at me carelessly as they turned to leave. Her look was exactly like someone watching a pathetic fool who'd finally learned her place. The pity mixed with contempt was more than I could bear. Once again, I ran like the coward I was. I didn't attend Garrett and Arya's mating ceremony. I spent the day in my childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling and trying to process what had happened. Marcus didn't question my absence when he returned home hours later. Instead, he burst through my door with excitement, his phone already out. Sage. You missed the most incredible ceremony. Look at these photos. He settled onto my bed without invitation, scrolling through dozens of pictures. Garrett and Arya's mating ritual was absolutely magical. The photos showed elaborate decorations, hundreds of guests, and a ceremony that must have cost a fortune. I'll give my future mate a ceremony just as beautiful. Marcus paused, noticing my pale complexion for the first time. By the way, were you feeling sick yesterday? Did you take any healing herbs? Thought I'd missed the ceremony because I was ill. I knew it had to be another lie Garrett told my brother to explain my absence. Probably something about a stomach bug or female troubles. Since I didn't want any more entanglements with Garrett anyway, I went along with it. I already took some herbs. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. I stared at the photos Marcus kept showing me. Garrett holding Arya's hands during the ceremony. Both of them beaming with joy as they exchanged vows. The elaborate feast afterward with them feeding each other. Every image was another nail in the coffin of my foolish hopes. My heart finally turned to ash. Marcus, I've decided to leave the pack for training. The words came out steadier than I'd expected. Taking advantage of the moment, I shared the plan I'd spent all night thinking through. Marcus's excitement about the ceremony died instantly. He set his phone aside and looked at me with reluctance filling his eyes. Sage, are you planning to become a true pack healer? There was worry in his voice now. Yes, Marcus. It's always been my dream. It wasn't entirely a lie. Before Garrett, I had wanted to follow in our mother's footsteps. Our father had died young from injuries that couldn't be healed in time. Our mother had sacrificed herself using too much power to heal others during a plague outbreak. After that, Marcus spoiled me but never wanted me to become a healer. He'd seen what the calling cost our family. When I'd given up my training for Garrett 3 years ago, Marcus had actually been relieved. Now, after all this time, Marcus had clearly thought things through too. But I was finally going to have some free time to spend with you. Marcus looked at me with such longing. Pack duties have been lighter lately. I was looking forward to us having more time together. The guilt in his voice almost made me reconsider. I smiled at him warmly, forcing brightness I didn't feel. Perfect timing then. Marcus can spend more time with me before I leave. I reached over and squeezed his hand. I'll probably be as busy as you are once I start training, but I promise I'll take care of myself. I rarely acted affectionate with Marcus anymore since becoming an adult. This sudden tenderness made his eyes well up. Sage, you used to love being pampered when you were little. His voice was thick with emotion. You'd follow me around the house, demanding piggyback rides and bedtime stories. The memory made my chest tight. I should never have taken you to see Arya back then. Marcus's expression grew troubled. You look more and more like her these days. The innocent observation hit me like lightning. Suddenly I understood why Arya had looked at me with such contempt and knowing disdain. She obviously knew who I was. She thought I was copying her style. Trying to imitate her to win Garrett's attention. She had no idea that all my clothes were things Garrett had chosen for me. Every dress, every accessory. Every hairstyle. I'd never realized Garrett had been styling me as Arya's replacement. Making me into a cheap imitation of the woman he really wanted. Chapter 6. The morning after my devastating conversation with Marcus, I stood in front of my mirror and made a decision. I quietly changed back to my old style of clothing. Gone were the elegant dresses and sophisticated accessories that Garrett had chosen for me. Instead, I pulled on my comfortable jeans and a simple sweater. My own clothes felt foreign after 3 years, but they were mine. Not some costume designed to make me look like another she-wolf. As I braided my hair in the simple style I'd worn before meeting Garrett, I felt something shift inside me. This was who I really was. Not Arya's pale imitation. Then I sat down at my desk and submitted my application to study healing at other pact territories. My fingers trembled slightly as I filled out the forms. The application asked for my reasons for wanting to train elsewhere. I wrote simply, to pursue advanced healing techniques not available in our territory. It was true, even if it wasn't the whole truth. As the Pact's future alpha, Garrett would be involved in any training that happened within our borders. He'd oversee my progress, approve my assignments, maybe even conduct evaluations. I'd have to see him constantly if I stayed. Report to him. Take orders from him. Watch him with Arya every single day. Once, that thought would have thrilled me. The chance to be near him, to prove myself worthy of his attention. Now, I just wanted to escape. I needed distance to heal. Space to become myself again instead of the desperate she-wolf I'd turned into. Because of how rare skilled healers were, my application was approved within hours of submission. The response email was enthusiastic, almost eager. Apparently, the Northern Territories had been seeking a trainee healer for months. If everything went as planned, I wouldn't return for at least 5 years. 5 years to learn. To grow. To forget. When I told Marcus, his face fell like I'd struck him. 5 years. His voice was barely a whisper. It's a comprehensive program, Marcus. I'll learn things here that I could never master staying home. Marcus hated to see me go, but he could see the determination in my eyes. After a long moment, he nodded slowly. Sage, go do what makes you happy. The simple acceptance in his voice almost made me cry. Thank you, Marcus. He pulled me into a fierce hug. I'm proud of you for choosing yourself for once. The words hit deeper than he probably intended. We haven't had a proper celebration yet, he said, pulling back with forced brightness. How about we get a good meal first? My treat. I could see him trying to make this special for me. Marcus took me to Moonlight Terrace, a famous private restaurant known for its intimate atmosphere and exquisite cuisine. It was the kind of place couples went for anniversaries and proposals. The kind of place I'd dreamed Garrett might take me someday. This is too expensive, Marcus. Nothing's too expensive for my sister's new beginning. We were shown to a cozy table by the window. Marcus ordered a bottle of the restaurant's finest wine. To new adventures, he toasted, raising his glass. Unfortunately, our celebration was about to be ruined. Garrett had brought Arya to the same restaurant. Of all the places in the territory, he had to choose this one. On this night, they were seated at the most prominent table in the center of the dining room. Arya wore a stunning red dress that probably cost more than most wolves made in a month. Her laugh carried across the restaurant as she leaned into Garrett's side. He noticed my changed clothing immediately. His eyes swept over my simple outfit with clear displeasure flashing across his face. The territorial anger in his expression was unmistakable. Like I was somehow betraying him by dressing as myself. I ignored him completely, focusing on Marcus's animated stories about his patrol duties. But Marcus, oblivious to the tension, spotted his friend and waved. "Garrett. You two are dining here too." Garrett's jaw tightened, but he managed a stiff smile. "Marcus." "Sage." The way he said my name was carefully neutral. Arya glanced at me, and I caught that familiar contempt flickering in her eyes. But when she spoke, her voice was honey-sweet. "Sage, having dinner as well. What a lovely coincidence." Chapter 7. She paused, letting her gaze linger. "On my casual outfit. Why don't Garrett and I treat you both? You left so quickly yesterday, we didn't get to properly host you." Her words were polite, but the undercurrents were something only we understood. She was marking her territory. Showing that she was the one with the power to extend invitations. The one with the generous, mated alpha beside her. No need. Both Garrett and I spoke at the same time. The simple synchronization was like a physical blow to the table's atmosphere. Arya's expression shifted immediately, her smile freezing in place. A flash of something dangerous crossed her features before she masked it. Marcus caught the strange tension and declined as well. "That's not necessary. You just had your mating ceremony, we don't want to intrude on your time together." He gestured between Arya and Garrett. "Besides, my sister is leaving soon to train with other packs. We might not see each other for years." Before Marcus could finish his sentence, Garrett suddenly stood up. His chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Excuse us for a moment." Without warning, he grabbed my wrist and started pulling me away from the table. His grip was iron-tight and possessive. "Let go of me." I struggled against his hold, but his alpha strength was undeniable. Other diners were starting to stare as he dragged me across the restaurant. Garrett pulled me into a private dining room, slamming the door behind us. The moment we were alone, his calm facade cracked completely. His eyes blazed with fury as he rounded on me. "Sage, you did this on purpose, didn't you?" His voice was low and dangerous. "Deliberately using this so-called training excuse to run into me and Arya. You're so pathetic, you can't let me go." The accusation hit me like a slap. "This is a coincidence. I had no idea you'd be here. You just had to find a way to make trouble for me, didn't you?" He stepped closer, using his size to intimidate me. "Showing up in those clothes, making that scene with the invitation. I'm warning you, Arya doesn't know about what happened between us. If you dare expose anything, I'll make sure you can't survive in this pack." The threat in his voice was real. "No, this is just a coincidence." Chapter 8. My mind went completely blank, but I still instinctively tried to explain. "I'm leaving the territory. Why would I want to cause problems now?" All I got in return was Garrett's cold laugh. "You didn't. Then who was it that used to desperately pump Marcus for information about me when you were chasing after me?" His words cut deep because they were true. "How else do you explain taking advantage of me when I was drunk and emotionally vulnerable? You must have been so proud when I agreed to be with you, weren't you?" Each accusation was designed to strip away my dignity. "You think you're so clever, playing the victim now." Before Garrett could finish his character assassination, the door burst open. Both Marcus and Arya stood in the doorway. Saw the devastation on Marcus's face as he took in the scene. his sister cornered by his best friend. The intimate way Garrett was standing too close to me. The guilt written across both our faces. Then I caught Arya's expression, like she'd expected exactly this. Like she'd orchestrated it. The humiliation was overwhelming. But what made it worse was Arya's calculated reaction. She didn't look shocked or hurt. She looked triumphant. She walked straight to Garrett and wrapped her arms around him possessively. Only then did she turn to face me with false concern. I've been hearing about Garrett's crazy she-wolf stalker for a while now. Her voice carried perfectly to where Marcus stood frozen. But I never imagined it would be you, Miss Sage. She shook her head with practiced disappointment. You staged this encounter, brought your brother along, all just for Garrett. Arya's performance was flawless. I'm sorry, but there's no room for a third wolf in our bond. Marcus's face had turned completely dark by now. The color drained from his features as understanding crashed over him. He stared at me with heartbreak in his eyes. This is the boyfriend you hid from me for 3 years. His voice was hollow with betrayal. If I'd known it was Garrett, I never would have allowed you two together. The pain in his words cut deeper than anything Garrett had said. I'd hurt the one person who'd always protected me. Garrett, I admit today was a misunderstanding, but I promise you as long as I, Marcus, draw breath, Sage will never have any connection to you again. Marcus's voice grew stronger as his anger took hold. He reached into his jacket and pulled out his pack warrior insignia. The silver badge represented years of loyal service. With deliberate precision, he slammed it onto the dining table. Furthermore, I'm resigning from the pack guard. Please approve my request, Great Future Alpha. The formal address was like a sword through the heart of their friendship. Marcus's fury silenced Garrett completely. For the first time since this nightmare began, Garrett looked genuinely shaken. Before Garrett could formulate a response, Marcus was already moving. He grabbed my arm, gently, unlike Garrett's rough handling, and started leading me toward the door. We're leaving. Now. Garrett started to say something, probably some weak apology or explanation. But Arya smoothly pulled him back before he could speak. Her timing was perfect. Garrett, so your crazy pursuer was Marcus's sister all along? Her voice was carefully modulated to sound hurt and confused. If we hadn't been exposed today, how long were you planning to keep this from me? As if on cue, tears began sliding slowly down her cheeks. Garrett watched those tears with growing guilt finally showing on his face. I'm sorry, Arya. I did hide it from you. His voice was rough with remorse. I should have told you everything from the beginning. Garrett pulled Arya into his embrace, stroking her hair as she sobbed against his chest. But where he couldn't see, over his shoulder as he held her close, Arya's lips curved into a triumphant smile. Chapter 9. Marcus, I'm sorry. I looked at my brother's furious face and carefully apologized. He looked at me, then did something rare, he pulled me into his arms. I'm sorry, Sage. I had no idea you suffered so much because of that bastard Garrett. I should have figured it out sooner. My brother's words broke down my last defenses, and I couldn't stop crying. I'm sorry, Marcus. I was the one who pursued him, but I truly didn't know he was with Arya. Garrett and Arya had hidden their relationship from many people. I wasn't the only one deceived, Marcus was too. That's why he understood just how badly I'd been betrayed. I know. Mom raised you well, Sage. You're not the kind of person who would interfere in someone else's relationship. That night, my relationship with Marcus grew closer than it had been in years. But the bad news started pouring in after yesterday's disaster. Anna, why was my application to study with other packs rejected? I stared at the returned paperwork, disbelief filling my eyes. Anna, the pack's external relations coordinator, looked at me with complicated emotions. Sage, people need to pay the price for their mistakes. The whole pack knows you interfered with Aria's mating bond. The other territories lodged strong protests, so your application was denied. Interfered with Aria's mating bond. I didn't. I started to deny it frantically, then suddenly noticed everyone else's stares. This was Garrett's pack territory. Without his authorization, such slanderous rumors couldn't have spread this widely. Sure enough, Anna continued. Don't bother denying it. Garrett admitted it himself. Aria cried terribly because of you. You're a vicious she-wolf. I misjudged you completely. Another she-wolf, consumed by rage, raised her hand to slap me. Slut. I hate females who steal other wolves' mates the most. There are so many unmated males, but you had to go after Arias, didn't you? She called over more pack members. Caught off guard by the attack, I could only passively endure this undeserved punishment. Blood filled my mouth. My clothes gradually tore apart. Bruises and bloodstains began appearing all over my body. If Marcus hadn't arrived in time to stop them, I might have been beaten to death. Chapter 10. When I woke up again, I was in the pack's medical den. Despite our family having decent resources, we couldn't afford to hire any attendants. Only Marcus was there, bustling around my bedside. He looked at me with gravity and sadness in his eyes. Sage, let's move away. Leave this territory and find a new pack that doesn't know us. But Marcus, if we leave here, Mom and Dad, Marcus cut me off. They won't blame us. You're all I have left, Sage. I can't watch you get hurt again in front of me. Garrett's public admission had made me a target for everyone's hatred. It had nearly cost me my life. Marcus had never hated anyone this much before. But he also knew clearly that taking me away was all he could do. The future Alpha's power wasn't something an ex-pack warrior could challenge. Marcus paused, then looked at me again. Or are you still reluctant to leave Garrett? No, Marcus. I stopped loving him long ago. As soon as I finished speaking, the door to the medical den was pushed open. Aria entered, looking down at me from above with mockery in her eyes. Sage, considering your brother has decided to take you away from the territory, I can allow you both to leave the pack. But on one condition, never return. Marcus stared at Aria with complex emotions. You did this on purpose, didn't you? All because of Garrett. Yes. All because of Garrett. He's about to become the pack's alpha, and after we're mated, I'll be his Luna. How could I possibly leave a cheap imitation who likes copying me in this territory? Just the thought makes me sick. Aria's undisguised disgust was like tearing off some kind of mask. Marcus looked at her in disbelief. You knew perfectly well that Sage was the victim. Why did you have to destroy her completely? She almost died because of you. Aria tilted her head at Marcus. But she didn't die, did she? Sage, you know what you need to do, right? I'll leave the territory. Don't worry. I held back Marcus, who looked ready to attack. Aria glanced at us once, then turned and left elegantly. Marcus collapsed into his chair, his eyes full of regret. Sage, if I'd known what kind of person Aria really was, I never would have befriended her. I took Marcus's hand and smiled. Marcus, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. I was getting tired of this territory anyway. With the help of healing herbs, my body recovered quickly. For my sake, Marcus took the necessary paperwork and filed our departure request. When he returned, though he tried to hide it, I could still see his sadness. However, leaving the territory was just the beginning. Our parents' graves were vandalized without reason, becoming a lifelong pain for us siblings. Looking at the words scrawled across the headstones, homewrecker, die, go to hell, my brother, who never shed tears even when bleeding, cried. Sage, let's go. This place is no longer our home. After my injuries healed, Marcus took me and our approved departure papers, and we left the territory. I didn't know where we were going. But as long as we left the pack, it would be good enough. Marcus, I'm going to rest for a while. Wake me when we arrive. Looking at the long road ahead, I felt strangely peaceful. Sudden drowsiness overtook me, and I couldn't help falling asleep. When I woke up again, I found myself in a pitch-black cave. Marcus was lying nearby, covered in blood. Marcus, what happened? Were we ambushed? I frantically used my healing abilities to treat his wounds. His color improved noticeably, though he still looked pale. Someone tried to kill us. I suspect it was Arya. Marcus, our whereabouts have been exposed. How about we turn this to our advantage? Chapter 11. Soon, news of my and Marcus's deaths reached the pack territory. Garrett showed a rare expression of panic. How could this happen? Arya also heard the news and quickly lowered her head to hide her satisfied smile. Garrett, don't be upset. After what Sage did, it was inevitable she'd be targeted after leaving the territory, she pretended to comfort him. Garrett seemed triggered by something and pushed Arya away. What did Sage do wrong? She never did anything wrong at all. If I'd known this would happen, I never should have agreed to let you claim Sage interfered with our bond. Arya stared at him in shock, her eyes beginning to redden. Garrett, are you blaming me? Garrett realized his words had been too harsh. After a pause, he sighed softly. I'm not blaming you. I just think Sage was too innocent. So you fell in love with her, is that it? Arya asked with tears in her voice, then placed her hand over her stomach. If that's the case, then I'll take the pup and leave. I want to break our mating bond. Garrett looked at her with joy. We're having a pup. Yes, I found out just a few days ago. I wanted to surprise you. Garrett's attention was completely captured by the news of their unborn pup, and he completely forgot about me. He pressed his ear against Arya's stomach, listening for movement. He didn't notice the relieved expression on her face. That evening, Garrett had to work late again. He apologetically told Arya, sorry, I've been really busy lately. It's fine, go handle your duties. After they parted, Arya's den received an unexpected visitor. When she saw who it was, her beautiful features filled with irritation. John, what are you doing here? I heard you're pregnant. Is it mine or his? John was built powerfully, with a kind of wild beauty. He looked at Arya with possessive desire in his eyes. Regardless of whose it is, it will only ever be Garrett's pup. Ha, you're quite the schemer. John laughed, his eyes full of satisfaction. I heard Garrett's working late again tonight. Even after your mating ceremony, he's still so busy. To neglect a beauty like you, Garrett really doesn't know how to appreciate what he has. As John spoke, he licked his lips unconsciously. Though I have to say, Sage was really beautiful. Too bad Marcus protected her so fiercely, we never got our chance with her. Arya raised an eyebrow at him. Enough chatter. Where are their bodies? Who knows? Outside pack territory, even if they survived, there's nowhere that would take them in. As John spoke, he couldn't help reaching for Arya. Arya slapped his wandering hands away. Get out of here. What if Garrett comes back early? Relax, I made sure he'd have plenty to keep him busy tonight. Intimate sounds began echoing through the den. Garrett listened to the activity inside. With just a gesture, his subordinates immediately seized both of them. When Arya saw Garrett, who was supposed to be working late, she immediately burst into tears. Garrett, he forced me. John hadn't expected Arya to sell him out to save herself. He cursed angrily, then sneered coldly. Do you think Arya is some kind of good female? She deliberately abandoned you back then. You didn't have the qualifications to inherit pack leadership then, but someone else did. In Garrett's mind, Arya had been a female who chose career over love. That's why he'd been helplessly infatuated, charmed by that very quality. But now John was telling him that Arya had broken up with him because she'd found a better male. When she learned Garrett had found me, Arya deliberately manipulated him, making him abandon me at crucial moments. Even their recent mating ceremony only happened because Arya had been abandoned by that other male. Of course, John wasn't innocent either, he simply enjoyed the thrill of betraying Garrett. You don't know this yet, but Arya has quite the reputation as a slut in our circles, Chapter 12. Garrett's face was expressionless as he gave his orders. Arrest them both. Take them for interrogation. The pack dungeons were notorious hellholes. Arya's beautiful face went pale with terror. No. Garrett, I'm carrying your pup. Whether it's mine or not, we'll know after testing. Take her away. Arya and John's pleas for mercy continued echoing as they were dragged off. Garrett quickly issued new commands. Send search parties to find Marcus and his sister. I want them found, alive or dead. Also, investigate exactly what happened to the siblings before they left our territory. His subordinates worked efficiently. Soon, Garrett received the full story of what had happened to us. After he'd publicly admitted I'd interfered with his bond, I'd nearly been beaten to death. When I'd finally recovered, even our parents' graves had been desecrated. And when we tried to escape the territory, Arya had sent assassins after us. Garrett couldn't understand why Arya harbored such hatred for an innocent she-wolf. He confronted her in fury. Why did you target Sage so viciously? She knew nothing. Arya's pup had already been sent for testing. Soon, the truth about its parentage would be exposed. She looked at Garrett's rage-filled eyes and laughed coldly. Regretting it now? Where was this concern before? Sage was just too naive, she believed everything you told her. Look at yourself, Garrett. You didn't even realize you'd fallen in love with her. If I hadn't destroyed her, hadn't framed her, how else could I steal the position of the future Alpha's mate? For the first time, Arya revealed her true ambitions to Garrett. Garrett was so enraged he beat her viciously. His final kick was aimed directly at her stomach. My pup. Arya's eyes widened in disbelief. Garrett sneered coldly. With a mother as evil as you, it's better this pup is never born. As for our mating bond, it ends now. Both Garrett's groan and Arya's scream rang out simultaneously. Arya's face went deathly pale with shock. Garrett, you've lost your mind. Breaking the bond will hurt you too, that's still better than remaining connected to you. Both you and I owe Sage and Marcus our lives in penance. 3 years passed. Marcus and I had made our home in Storm Fong Pack territory. I'd become one of the pack's most important members as a skilled healer. Of course, our successful settlement was largely thanks to Bridges. He was the pack's future alpha. Sage, could you come out? Someone here needs healing. Of course, no problem. After 3 years of training, I'd finally become as skilled a healer as my mother. I'd found unprecedented respect and kindness in this pack. Having survived such a tragic past, I treasured these peaceful days. But that peace shattered when I unexpectedly encountered Garrett. Sage, it really is you. I was wrong. I killed everyone who hurt you. I'll spend my lifetime making it up to you. Come back with me. That's unnecessary. From the moment Sage was killed, she ceased to exist. I rejected him without hesitation and turned to leave. But Garrett shamelessly followed. Marcus, hearing the news, came running and beat Garrett mercilessly. Get out! If you hadn't deceived my sister and claimed she was a homewrecker, how would our parents have suffered such fate? We nearly died too. How can you possibly compensate for that? Befriending you is the biggest regret of my life. Marcus cursed Garrett with the most vicious words he could find. I watched it all with detachment, saying lightly, Marcus, when you're done beating him, let's go. I'm sure the great Garrett won't hold it against us. But this is too easy on him, just a beating hardly seems sufficient. Bridges says Garrett is about to lose his alpha position anyway. He's severely injured and won't live much longer. No need to dirty our hands for a dying wolf. Before I could finish speaking, Bridges suddenly appeared and wrapped his arm around my waist. Sage is absolutely right. Worthy of being my mate. Garrett stared at us in shock. Sage, you've bonded with someone else. Bridges grinned cheerfully. That's right. Thanks to your blindness, I found such a wonderful mate. Thank you, Alpha Garrett. Garrett collapsed on the spot. Bridges took advantage of the moment to escort Garrett back to his territory. He delivered one final blow as they left. Alpha Garrett, Sage is pregnant. Please don't keep disturbing us. After that, Garrett never came to bother us again. I gave birth to a son who looked just like Bridges. Father and son, along with Marcus, showered me with love. Later, news of Garrett's death suddenly reached us from his pack. Apparently, Arya had escaped from prison and killed him. Before dying, Garrett had bequeathed all his wealth to me. Bridges held me close, jealous. What do you plan to do with that money? Donate it to the pack. Haven't you been wanting to expand our territory? Perfect. Give me a few years and I'll absorb Garrett's entire pack. When that happens, shall we return home together to honor Mom and Dad? Yes.